She slammed the door and screamed, "You'll regret this." 10 minutes later, her breakup post hit 70,000 likes. She edited me out of every picture, tagged, "He cheated," and played a sad audio reel in the background. I didn't comment. I didn't explain. I simply uploaded the screenshot of her chat with her ex, the one where she called me a boring backup boyfriend. Then I turned off my phone. Let the world decide who they want to believe. The DMs started flooding in within the hour. Some were from mutual friends asking if it was true. Others were from people I didn't even know, throwing insults, telling me to apologize, and that men like you ruin women. The ones that hit the hardest weren't the angry ones, they were the ones who pretended to care. "Hey bro, I just wanted to check in on you. Also, is it true you didn't take her out on Valentine's?" I stared at the screen, let it vibrate for 10 seconds, and then chucked the phone into the laundry basket. It was all so predictable. I met Sophia 2 years ago during a campus panel on entrepreneurship. She sat in the front row in a blush pink hoodie and took photos of my slides. She came up afterward and said, "Your brain must be exhausting to live in. I love it." I didn't realize then that it wasn't a compliment, it was a warning. Because that's how everything with her went. Beautifully worded chaos. In the beginning, she laughed at my awkwardness. She told her friends I was her stable king. She made my apartment feel like a home and painted stars on my ceiling to inspire my ambition, and I thought I was lucky. Until I realized every post, every caption, every smile was rehearsed for me. But for whoever was watching, she'd break up with me for forgetting to like her story. Threatened to block me if I didn't comment first. One time, I was 5 minutes late to dinner because of a back-end crash on my app. And she tweeted, "Nothing hurts more than loving someone whose priorities make you invisible." 50,000 likes. And a million moments where I stood in front of her wondering, do you even know me, or do you just perform me? That night, the night she left, wasn't even our biggest fight. It was just a small argument about her filming inside my team's office again. I said no. She said I was trying to control her. I said boundaries aren't control, she said. Then we're done. Like it was a script she rehearsed. Like she had the breakup reel edited and saved as a draft already, and I didn't chase her, I didn't cry. I didn't kneel in the rain like I had done once before when she left me on the curb after accusing me of emotional distance. For not texting enough while I was with my dying uncle. Instead, I stood there, still. For 10 minutes, and then I went to the fridge, made eggs, ate silently, and opened my work dashboard. And when I saw her post go viral, I laughed once. Not the bitter kind, not the angry kind. The kind of laugh that comes from a soul too dry to cry. It took me exactly 3 seconds to upload the screenshots. No caption, no emoji, just proof. Her voice in a message saying, "You're not exciting like Ryan, but at least you're loyal." That's worth something, right? The world paused, and then it shifted. Her followers, once an army, began dissecting her. Old videos resurfaced. Clips of her saying she's done dating for content, while clearly mid-argument, with me, tweets from last year with subtle digs. Even brand reps began quietly untagging themselves, and me. I went for a walk. It was a cold night. Dry air pressing against my skin like static. I walked past the river where she once filmed a healing vlog, after faking tears. I walked past the parking lot where I waited 3 hours on her birthday, holding cupcakes she forgot she asked for. I walked until I reached the 24/7 diner near campus, the same one I took her to on our first date. I sat in the same booth, alone this time, ordered the same pancakes, but this time they tasted like freedom. I opened my phone one last time, not to respond, just to mute her, every app. every thread, every echo of her voice. Let her followers spin their theories. Let the comments pile up like leaves in a storm. Because I wasn't here to argue. I was done performing in a love story that was never mine. This time, the silence was mine. And it was enough. John wasn't the type who showed up in anyone's highlight reels. He walked with his head slightly tilted down, always listening to something on his earbuds, lo-fi beats, podcasts about scaling back-end systems, or sometimes just silence. Campus, people knew him as the guy who fixed the vending machine app in first year, who never missed a shift at the coffee bar near the engineering building, and who always replied to group project messages with clear bullet points and no emojis. He didn't chase attention. He chased clarity. Even as a child, John was slow to anger, quick to observe. He used to sit in the back seat during family road trips, tracing code patterns on fogged-up windows, watching the world slide past while his cousins squabbled over music. By the time he turned 22, he had built and sold to lightweight productivity apps and had quietly taken freelance projects that paid better than most internships. But despite all of this, he never posted about it. No LinkedIn humble brags. No Insta stories of coffee and code aesthetics. No tweets about startup grind. He believed in building, not broadcasting. That's probably what made him stand out to Sophia. Sophia was everything John wasn't. Where he was quiet, she was vivid. Where he hid from the algorithm, she bent it too. Her Will Sophia had 300k followers, 3 active brand deals, a weekly vlog called Healing Mondays, and a curated feed full of sunsets, latte art, outfit hauls, and emotional check-ins. She was majoring in digital media strategy, but had already branded herself far better than any lecture could teach. Her camera followed her everywhere, from study dates, to yoga mornings, to eventually, John's apartment. They met at a guest lecture on startup ethics. John didn't even plan to speak. He just wanted to learn. But during a Q&A, he nervously raised his hand and challenged the speaker about data scraping models in freemium apps. The auditorium went quiet. Even the guest professor had to pause and say, that single quote, as ... a fair concern. When the lecture ended, Sophia walked up to him, camera in hand, pink nails tapping on her lens, and said, your brain must be exhausting to live in. I love it, he chuckled. Not really, I just read the fine print. She asked if she could feature him in a short clip for her weekly recap. He said no, and maybe that's what caught her attention the most. They started slow. At first, she messaged him asking about app layouts and design recommendations. Then coffee, then longer walks, then pictures, then weekends. At first, it felt like magic. John had never been with someone who noticed things so vividly, how he sorted his books by subject and color, how he paused movies when dialogue got too real, how he triple-checked if her door was locked before bed. Sophia was affectionate in a way that felt overwhelming, but flattering. She would hold his hand and whisper, don't ever lose that quiet sadness in your eyes. It's poetic. She'd post snippets of their conversations and caption them. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, it heals you. John didn't understand what that meant. But he let it be. He liked her energy. He liked that she ordered bubble tea with extra pearls and then gave him half because chewy things bore me. He liked how she sang Taylor Swift off-key in the car and made up lyrics halfway. He didn't even mind when she started calling him boyfriend content. In front of friends, it was new, different, loud, but full of life. But over time, the edges started to show. It started when Sophia would insist he wear certain outfits when they went out, muted sweaters, cuffed jeans, soft boyfriend aesthetics. It's just for the feed, she'd say, laughing. You look so gentle when I frame you right. Then came the polls. Should John cut his hair or not? Vote below. Do we like Serious John or Smiley John? He thought they were harmless. Until the comments started. One girl replied, "Why does he look like he's being held hostage in these pics, lol." Another said, "He's cute, but ... dead in the eyes. Is he okay?" Sophia laughed. People are so dramatic. But she didn't take them down, and John didn't protest. That's when he first felt it, that tiny ache behind his ribcage. The sense that he was becoming a character in someone else's story. Not a partner, a prop. They had fights. Not loud ones, but piercing. She would say he was emotionally unavailable. He would say he just needed space. She would tweet, "Why is silence louder than cruelty sometimes?" And her followers would echo. Back in waves of sympathy, he started noticing a pattern. They never actually solved fights. They just paused them for the camera, for convenience, for optics. Sophia would post something sweet, tag him, and smile at him while holding the phone. Like a mother coaxing a toddler, he gave in. Again and again, until the day she posted their anniversary dinner as a livestream, and John had no idea the camera was rolling until mid-meal. She was narrating everything. His silence, his outfit, his weird way of slicing steak. That night, he left the table early and slept on the couch. She didn't say sorry. She made a TikTok about growing pains in healthy relationships. Her fans ate it up. One even commented, "Girl, he's lucky you're patient. I'd have left." John saw that comment. He read it 5 times, and still, he stayed. Because love, as he understood it, wasn't supposed to be perfect. It was supposed to be patient, forgiving, and somewhere deep down, he still believed that Sophia loved him, just not in the language he spoke. She loved the version of him that fit on a 6-inch screen. The boyfriend who held her bags and smiled in the back. The boyfriend who paid the bill and didn't ask where she was last night. The boyfriend who sent her flowers even after she accused him of being boring. John called it compromise. Everyone else called it delusion, and yet, he still traced his fingers over old pictures sometimes, wondering if maybe she just didn't know how to love properly. Maybe it wasn't her fault. But in quieter moments, when the comments got cruel, when her ex's name showed up on her phone screen, when she whispered "Don't embarrass me" before they entered restaurants, he began to understand. He wasn't being loved. He was being used. And the saddest part was, he had known it long before he admitted it. Everyone said he was lucky, but John had spent every single day of that relationship trying to earn something that should have been given freely. Her trust, her loyalty, her respect, and the truth was, the more he tried, the more invisible he became. Until the only person who saw him was the one staring back in bathroom mirrors, asking quietly, "Is this what love feels like?" For 6 months straight, Sophia treated the word breakup like punctuation. It came up when he forgot to compliment her outfit, when he asked her to lower her voice during live streams, when he disagreed with her captions, and especially when he asked if they could talk without the camera on. Every disagreement, no matter how minor, ended with the same line, "Maybe we should just break up then." At first, John thought it was just emotional volatility. Maybe she was tired. Maybe he wasn't being understanding. Maybe relationships were supposed to feel like landmines. So he did what he always did. He apologized. Even when he didn't understand. What for? He'd write long messages about how he valued her, how he would do better, how communication mattered. He deleted his own tweets just because they could be misinterpreted, or because they weren't aligned with her aesthetic. He cancelled coding sprints and coffee shifts when she cried in the middle of arguments and said, "I don't want to feel abandoned. You always leave when I'm sad." And every time, he came back. With flowers. With her favorite Thai takeout. With a playlist titled, "I'm Sorry." Until eventually, he started apologizing for things he hadn't even done. Yet, just to preempt the damage. Just to hold the version of love she claimed she wanted. Then came the live stream. It was a Tuesday night. John had just submitted a pitch deck to a new investor. His mind was buzzing with ideas, timelines, code dependencies. Sophia texted, "I'm going live, come say hi." He didn't reply. Not out of spite, he was just focused. 5 minutes later, he got tagged in her livestream. The thumbnail was a close-up of her face, with swollen eyes and dim lighting. The caption said, "When the one you love doesn't show up for you." He opened the stream just in time to hear her say, "He doesn't even ask how I am anymore. He used to bring me soup when I had migraines. Now he doesn't even text back." And the comments exploded. "Dump him. You deserve better, girl. Another tech bro who can't handle emotions." He stared at the screen for 30 seconds. Then he closed it. He didn't argue. Didn't explain. Didn't even message her. He stood up, walked to the hallway, and grabbed a cardboard box. He began packing the books she left, the skincare bottles that took up half his shelf, the charger she borrowed permanently, the Polaroids taped to his fridge, even the glass mug with their initials etched in gold. He didn't throw anything. He placed them gently, as if even now, he respected the version of her he once knew. He walked to her apartment and left the box by the door. No note, no knock, no message. He turned around and walked back into a silence that finally felt real. The first 3 days were quiet online. She didn't mention him again. Instead, she posted vaguely sad quotes, aesthetic photos of coffee cups and books opened halfway, followed by captions like, "Even storms get tired of the noise." People assumed it was a phase, that they'd make up, like always. But by day 6, the questions began. "Where's John? You okay, Queen? Girl, just blink twice if you're hurting." Then, she dropped the bomb. A new YouTube video, The Truth About Emotional Neglect. And Why I Finally Let Go, a 12-minute monologue in soft lighting, filled with carefully edited pauses and background music that swelled at the right moments. She talked about how hard it is to date someone who doesn't express emotions the same way. How some people use logic as a weapon to invalidate your pain. How she tried so hard to keep the relationship afloat, while he just watched it sink. She never said his name. She didn't need to. The comments filled in the blanks. John's inbox exploded. Some people accused him of gaslighting her. Others tried to get him cancelled from the campus startup incubator. One anonymous email read, "You always looked like a narcissist anyway. We see through the shy guy act." He read it once. Then quietly he logged into his cloud archive. He searched January and there they were. The screenshots. Messages from Sophia to her ex-boyfriend, Ryan. Some were casual at first. "Hope you're doing well. Missed your playlist, Rex. But then, ... Sometimes I wish I had waited for you. He's stable, but you were fire. Do you ever think about that night at the cabin?" Dated and timestamped, some just days before they're live-streamed. Anniversary dinner. John didn't rage. Didn't call her. Didn't write an essay on Medium. He uploaded 2 screenshots to his story. No caption. Just enough for the timestamps to be visible. Within minutes, they were everywhere. And the silence that followed was beautiful. Sophia's fans were split. Some accused him of violating her privacy. Others defended him, saying, she manipulated the narrative first. A few called it karma. Most just called it messy, but John didn't respond. Instead, he took a long shower, ordered ramen, and slept for 8 hours straight, for the first time in weeks. The next morning, his phone had 123 unread messages. He opened none. By noon, Sophia posted a vague tweet. Some people will do anything to look like the good guy. And that was it. The last time she addressed him directly online. But the damage was already done. 2 days later, one of her own friends sent John a message. He almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of him. Double quotes, "Hey, ... I probably shouldn't be saying this, but she lied to everyone. She's been seeing Ryan for months. I found out the night she blocked me for asking if she told you." John read it twice. He replied, simply, "Thanks for telling me." Deborah didn't write again. She didn't have to. The puzzle had already finished solving itself by the end of the week. Sophia posted a teary IG story about being bullied off the internet. But unlike before, no wave of support followed. People were tired. Tired of stories shifting too often. Tired of the victim narrative being recycled. John watched the story once, and then archived the final photo of them from his phone. He had spent so long trying to protect her image. Trying to edit himself into the kind of boyfriend she could post without critique. But now, she could post whatever she wanted. And he didn't care. She'd called him boring, predictable, safe, but not wild. And maybe she was right. But being boring didn't mean being blind. And being safe didn't mean being stupid. He had been loyal, but not weak. Patient, but not silent forever. And now that he had spoken Evan, if only through screenshots, he didn't need to speak again. She had chosen her stage. He had chosen his exit. And for once in his life, he wasn't going to apologize for walking away. John had always thought pain would feel sharp, like a stab, or a burn, or a fall. But in reality, it was slow, dull, like trying to scream underwater. Some days, he woke up thinking it was still yesterday. Other days, he didn't want to wake up at all. He stopped playing music in the morning. Stopped wearing cologne. Stopped checking the front door, twice out of habit. Waiting for a pink tote bag to drop against it. His apartment was still full of echoes. The couch where she once curled up. Watching reruns of romantic dramas, while mocking them. The blanket, she said, smelled like comfort. The tea mug with a chipped handle she refused to throw away because it held memories. John would sit across from that cup every morning, but never touch it. At first he tried to stay busy. He told himself he would optimize the pain, turn it into fuel. He signed up for back-to-back freelance work, fixed bugs in his app until 3 a.m. Reorganized his bookshelves alphabetically and by genre. But nothing changed. The hollow silence that followed him everywhere. He kept replaying moments. Like the first day they met at that tiny cafe near campus, with flickering lights and mismatched chairs. She'd spilled a lavender latte on her coat and laughed like it didn't matter. He remembered thinking, she's chaos. But beautiful. Chaos, she asked him. Do you ever feel like your brain runs faster than the world? He nodded. She smiled and said, same. We're either geniuses or doomed. He thought that moment meant something. He also remembered the night she had a panic attack outside a party. How she collapsed on the pavement, breath shallow, eyes wide. How he sat with her for 2 hours, holding her, grounding her, wiping mascara off her cheek. She kissed him afterward, and whispered, "You're the only one who makes me feel safe." He had believed her, and then, there were the other memories. The night she locked him out of his own apartment, because she needed space, and didn't want to see his face. The time she filmed his teary breakdown, and posted a caption, "Loving someone with anxiety is hard, but it's worth it." Thousands of likes. No context. His vulnerability, turned into content. That betrayal ran deeper than any infidelity. Because while cheating was a broken promise, this was the weaponization of trust. John's friends saw the change in him. Leo, his longtime roommate, tried to stage an intervention with humor. "Bro, come to the gym. Let's replace your feelings with protein. Deborah, his classmate from AI Ethics, just said, "You look tired, John." Not in a physical way. Everyone wanted him to move on, but no one saw the weight he carried. Not just of loss of wasted belief. He hadn't just lost Sophia. He had lost the version of himself who thought loving someone unconditionally was always noble. He was now learning that sometimes love required boundaries, not endurance. And yet, he still couldn't bring himself to hate her. Even after the cropped screenshots. Even after the lies. Even after the messages from random strangers calling him manipulative. Trash. He wanted to scream. I stayed up with her during panic attacks. I paid for her therapy when she didn't want to tell her parents. I defended her to my own friends, but he didn't single quotes. He simply watched her followers flood his DMs with questions. Why are you so silent? Why won't you tell your side? Are you guilty? He typed responses, then deleted them. Because somewhere deep down he understood, validation is not justice. And Sophia had built her world on performance. He wouldn't try to out-act her in the court of public pity, so he turned inward. He reopened an old startup project he'd shelved during their relationship. A lightweight wellness tracking app he originally built for her. Ironically, back then, she said, "I don't need tech to tell me how I feel." So he dropped it. Now, he picked it up again. The code base was rusty, the UX design outdated, but the idea still breathed. He rewrote the architecture. This time, not for her. Not for followers. Just for himself. Farah noticed the shift. She was a quiet force. The kind of person who didn't fill silences, but honored them. They'd met during a UI/UX workshop. She was designing meditation apps with watercolor palettes and hand-drawn icons. John liked that she wore sneakers with dresses and always carried a sketchbook. She never asked about Sophia. She never asked for anything. One day, he looked up from his laptop and asked, "Can I show you something I've been rebuilding?" She nodded. No questions. They worked together for hours in the campus library. Selfies. No documentation, just ideas. Flow, stillness. It felt foreign, then natural, then safe. Days passed. His sleep improved. He stopped checking Sophia's page. He muted half his contacts. He cleared his saved voice notes, but pain still lingered. Late at night, when the city quieted, memories crept back. Not of the fights, not of the breakdowns, but of the in-betweens. The way Sophia used to hum while making smoothies. How she wrote his name in the steam on the mirror after a hot shower. The quiet way she reached for his hand under restaurant tables. He missed those versions of her. Or maybe, he missed the hope attached to them. Because even now, there was a version of him that whispered, "Maybe she loved you, just not well." He hated that version of himself. But he forgave it too. Because love, no matter how misguided, is still love. And mourning a fantasy doesn't make you foolish, it makes you human. One evening, Farah handed him a note. It was a doodle of a sun, with the words, "You are not broken. You are rebuilding." He stared at it for a long time, then put it in his wallet. That night, he slept without dreaming. Sophia always knew how to control a story, but this time the story refused to obey. At first, the sympathy came in like it always did, swift, predictable, and loud. After the initial backlash from John's quiet upload, Sophia posted nothing for 3 days. Her feed went silent. That silence made people uneasy. Her followers began speculating. Where is she? This doesn't sound like the Sophia we know. He must have manipulated the screenshots, but then she came back. A single, shaky Instagram story. Just her hand, trembling slightly, holding an IV tube. The caption was vague and tearful. I was bullied off the internet. Hope it was worth it. The floodgates reopened. Sympathy surged. Influencer friends reposted it with captions like "Mental health matters." Her comments were flooded with broken hearts, prayer emojis, and people saying, "We stand with you, Sophia." But it didn't last, because someone else had been watching. Someone who knew how her systems worked, not as a fan, but as a developer. Jason John hadn't spoken to Jason since their first-year group project on mobile app, Catching. But Jason remembered everything. Especially the time Sophia asked Jason to build her a scheduling plugin for her content drops. She wanted emotional posts preloaded, Jason told John in a quiet DM, like breakup day content and backup drafts. Creeped me out, honestly. John didn't reply, just waited. Minutes later, Jason messaged again, "That Ivy pic. Scheduled." Same one she uploaded in a private sandbox account 2 weeks ago to test filters. Timestamp proves it. Want me to post it? John paused, then typed, "Don't post it, just leak it. Somewhere neutral." Within hours, an anonymous tech Twitter account posted metadata screenshots, file names, timestamps, even logs from the scheduling tool. No commentary. Just code. The internet pounced. Reddit threads popped up dissecting every one of Sophia's posts over the last month. One user pulled up a side-by-side comparison of the supposed hospital pic and a photo from a modeling shoot where Sophia wore the same bracelet. Another traced XF data that showed the location was a photo studio, not a clinic. Even some of her longtime followers started pulling back. Double quotes, wait. If she faked this, what else was fake? I loved her content, but this feels calculated. This is textbook emotional manipulation. Brands noticed. Quietly, then swiftly by Friday, 2 of her major affiliate links had gone dark. Monday, her name was removed from the keynote speaker list at an upcoming social impact summit. No official announcement, just silence. Sophia, in return, posted a selfie with a healing caption and muted comments. It didn't trend, and that's when John made his final move. No words. No long caption. No thread, just a 15-second video. A black screen, a simple audio file. Her voice, clear, casual, cutting. I could post "We broke up" and people will take my side. They always do. No hashtags, no music. Just silence at the end. He uploaded it to his feed, left it for 2 hours, then deleted it. But by then, the clip had been downloaded, re-uploaded, reposted, and subtitled. Even people outside their circle began weighing in. A prominent therapist account posted, "Weaponizing mental health to control narrative is not advocacy. It's abuse." Another thread explained how Sophia's patterns mirrored textbook examples of narcissistic emotional leverage in digital spaces. Suddenly, John became the face of a bigger story of men who stay quiet in emotionally abusive relationships because speaking up feels like betrayal. But John wasn't looking for sympathy. He wasn't trying to flip the narrative. He was just done letting someone else write his story. When a podcast reached out asking for an exclusive interview, he declined. When a blog offered to publish his side, he didn't reply. Instead, he added another feature to the wellness app. He was building one that allowed users to track when they last did something just for themselves. He called the feature Undo. Farah saw it on his laptop one afternoon. Undo. He nodded. For when you realize something you did wasn't for you. She smiled and said, "I think that's the most human thing an app can offer." Outside, the world moved on. Trends shifted. Hashtags changed. Other influencers took Sophia's place in the algorithm. She still posted, but less. Her captions got more cryptic. She'd quote poetry about silence, misunderstanding, wolves dressed in sheep's clothing. But her engagement never fully recovered. The trust had been broken. Not by the audio clip, but by the realization that nothing had ever been real. She'd always said she was raw, vulnerable, authentic. But now, people saw the grid lines. It wasn't one lie that ruined her. It was the architecture of lies she built her brand on, and John, he never posted again. His account remained up, unedited. No revenge arc. No retrospective thread. Just an old photo of him holding a paper coffee cup and a single sentence in the bio. Living offline is still living. The room buzzed with anticipation. The venue wasn't massive, just a co-working tech hall downtown with sleek track lighting and foldable chairs, but it was packed. Developers, investors, startup bloggers, and university press clustered together, waiting for what was already being whispered as the quiet success story of the year. John stood backstage, adjusting the cuff of his blazer. He wasn't used to wearing one he preferred hoodies and denim, but tonight was different. His app had finally launched, Breakup, a personal wellness platform that emphasized quiet recovery, healthy boundaries, and screenless prompts. Ironically, born from the ashes of a life once lived entirely online. Farah stood beside him with her sketchpad in one hand and a quiet pride in her eyes. She had helped redesign the emotional interface, built the logo, even hand-donated the small breathing visuals. She never asked for credit. She just worked, trusted, believed. He glanced at her. "Are you nervous?" She smiled. "Not at all, you've already won." He was about to walk on stage when he heard a voice familiar, shaky, dressed in nostalgia. "John." He froze, turned. And there she was, Sophia, her hair tied back, like the first day he met her. No makeup, simple white blouse. But her eyes read wide, desperately searching gave it away. She didn't come for the app. She didn't come to support. She came for him. "Please. I know this is the last place I should be, but I had to see you. Just once." Farah stepped back, silently observing. John didn't speak. Sophia stepped closer, voice trembling. "I messed up. I know that now. I let the followers speak louder than my own heart. I should have fought for us. I should have stopped posting. And just ... listened to you." John stared at her. "You used to tell me I was your calm, your anchor, and I pushed that away because it wasn't exciting. But I see now I was chasing noise, and you were silence. And silence is peace. I didn't know how to be loved like that, John." He didn't flinch, didn't soften. She tried again. "We can fix this. I swear, I've changed. I'm not that girl anymore. I don't care about followers. I don't care about brand deals. I care about you. If you say the word, I'll delete everything. Just give me one chance. One real chance." The room behind the curtain grew quieter as the MC finished her intro. John looked at Sophia. Then at Farah, whose expression hadn't changed. No judgment, no pressure, just presence. Finally, John spoke. "You taught me what love shouldn't feel like." Sophia blinked. "What?" "I thought love was sacrifice. I thought staying meant strength. But staying, when your worth is being drained for likes and captions, isn't love. It's self-erasure. John, you didn't love me. You loved the idea of me. The one you could filter and crop, and hashtag." He glanced at the stage light blinking overhead. "I don't hate you. I don't even wish you harm. But I can't carry your growth anymore." She reached for his arm. He stepped back. "Goodbye, Sophia." Then he turned, walked on stage. The applause was immediate. He stood in front of the mic, took a slow breath, and looked at the crowd. "I don't want to talk about metrics tonight. Or conversion rates. Or funding rounds." A small ripple of polite laughter. "I want to talk about something I lost. And then found." The room fell into stillness. I used to believe that love meant giving until you disappeared. That being someone's safe space meant absorbing everything, even their damage. That silence was love. That not fighting back was maturity. He paused, then I realized. Silence can also be survival. And disappearing in someone else's narrative is the opposite of living. He clicked the remote. The screen behind him lit up not with code, but with one line, breathe line, wellness that doesn't ask for your pain to be content. We've built a platform that helps people disconnect from digital noise, from performative healing, from being always on or. You won't find follower counts here, you won't find filters. Just space. For yourself. The audience listened. Transfixed. We don't monetize sadness. We don't reward trauma porn. We just offer quiet tools, small prompts, and permission to heal without broadcasting it. He looked into the crowd, at professors, VCs, coders, artists, because some things deserve to happen off the screen. The applause started slow, then grew, by the time he stepped down. The standing ovation filled the room like thunder. Farah waited for him just off stage. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She handed him a water bottle and nodded. Once. He smiled. In the crowd, Sophia had already left. That night, as the post-launch celebration wound down, John sat alone by the floor-to-ceiling window of the event hall. His phone buzzed messages from his dev team, a VC rep, to national press requests. Then one more. Sophia's story. A single black screen. White serif font overlaid. Some people only shine after they dim others. No mention, no context, just shadows. He watched it once, then put his phone face down. Outside, the city glowed. Farah walked over, holding 2 hot chocolates. I got you the mint one. He took it, looked at her. Thanks. She raised an eyebrow. For what? For not trying to save me, just for standing there. She smiled. You saved yourself. And that night, for the first time in years, he believed it. Months passed, the noise faded. The algorithm moved on. The world, predictably, found new drama to chase. And in the quiet left behind, John rediscovered something he hadn't felt in years. Stillness. Not the uneasy silence that follows a fight. Not the shallow peace that hides under I'm fine. But genuine stillness, the kind that made room for breath. He woke up earlier now. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to watch the light creep in through the blinds. Sometimes he'd go on walks before work, earbuds in, but nothing playing. He liked the sound of his own footsteps, the rhythm of shoes on pavement. It reminded him that movement didn't always need direction. Sometimes, it just needed presence. Farah was still around. They didn't label anything. They didn't need to. Some days, they grabbed coffee and sat in silence, sipping slowly. Other days, they wandered through bookstores and pointed out the weirdest titles they could find. They didn't hold hands often, but when they did, it never felt performative. It felt like shared air. There was no pressure to be poetic. No captions being drafted in real time. No expectation to turn every moment into meaning. John found himself smiling for no reason. Not the forced kind that people use to reassure others, but the involuntary curl of lips that appears when the soul recognizes safety. He cleared out his phone one night. Deleted old screenshots, conversations, pinned memories. Not out of bitterness. Not even out of closure. Just peace. He didn't need evidence anymore. He didn't need to hold on to pain to justify his healing. He was already past it. His app Breatheline slowly gained traction. It didn't go viral. It didn't trend. But people began writing in. This app helped me sleep for the first time in weeks. Your tool stopped me from texting my ex. Thank you for not asking me to share everything. The feedback wasn't loud, but it was sincere. One message stood out. From a teenager who wrote, "I didn't know healing could be private. I thought I had to tweet every feeling to be seen. Your app made me feel safe in my own silence." John read it twice, then sent it to Farah. She responded with one line. "You're giving others what you gave yourself." One weekend in spring, John walked past the old bus stop near the river where Sophia once made him wait for hours during one of her self-care disappearances. He had brought flowers that day. They wilted before she arrived. Now, the bench was empty. Sunlight caught the edges of the seat. John stood for a moment. Not in mourning, not in resentment, just recognition. This is where I learned patience wasn't the same as love. He smiled and kept walking. Back at home, Farah had left a doodle on his desk. A cartoon version of him, holding a coffee cup, looking up at a sky full of tiny pixel stars. The caption read, "You are allowed to be soft, in a world that demanded you be steel." He laughed, picked up the drawing, tucked it inside his journal. One evening, while organizing files, he came across the folder labeled "Sophia Don't Open." He hovered for a second, then clicked. Hundreds of photos, screen recordings, notes, drafts of texts he never sent. He selected them all, deleted. No hesitation, no lump in the throat, just clean space. Afterward, he brewed tea, curled up with a book, and dozed off without finishing the second chapter. There were no dreams, no nightmares, just rest. Later that week, at a small startup meet, someone approached him and said, "You're John, right? The guy with the wellness app." He nodded, modest. "Yeah, that's me." The stranger smiled. "Cool, I just wanted to say thanks. I stopped journaling after my last relationship. Your app made me want to start again." John shook his hand. No selfies, no hashtags. Just connection. Sometimes, Farah stayed over. Sometimes, she didn't. There was no pressure to fuse their lives into a singular story. John had learned the difference between companionship and codependence, between love and need, between performance and presence. He had also learned that healing didn't always look like triumph. Sometimes it looked like tea that didn't go cold. Books read slowly, a shower, without overthinking. Messages unanswered, and silence. That didn't ache. Farah once asked him, "Do you miss the chaos?" He paused. "I miss the idea of fixing it, not the reality." She nodded. That night, they watched the rain fall outside. No deep talks, no declarations, just comfort. Sophia posted less these days. When she did, her tone was subdued. Cryptic, she shared quotes about learning through suffering and the silence of misunderstood hearts. Her follower count plateaued. Some brands never reconnected. One day she posted a Q&A sticker, asking followers, "What's something you've let go of recently?" John saw it by accident, then closed the app, because he already had his answer. The following Sunday, he gave a small talk at a university event. The topic was building with intent. He ended with this line, "You don't owe the world your story if it costs you your peace." A few students clapped. One took notes. That was enough. Later that evening, Farah asked him, "Do you think she ever apologize?" John shook his head. She already did. When? The day I realized I didn't need one. They toasted to that with water, not wine, and spent the rest of the night baking muffins that came out terribly lopsided. He posted a picture of them, just one, no tags, no captions, just two hands, holding ugly muffins. It got 6 likes. And it was perfect. Sophia once said, "You'll regret losing me." She said it with such conviction, like It was prophecy, not a threat. Like her absence would echo louder than her presence ever could. John had believed it, once he'd held onto that sentence, like a warning label. In the early days after the breakup, it haunted his thoughts during coffee runs. Echoed through grocery aisles, showed up uninvited when he tried to laugh again. "You'll regret losing me." It became the mantra of his doubt. The voice he couldn't silence, even when the world had gone quiet. But seasons shifted, and with them, so did the meaning of things. One Sunday morning, John found himself seated across from Farah at a small cafe 2 streets from campus. The place was quiet. No music. No crowd. Just 2 mugs of herbal tea, and a window cracked open to let in the sound of leaves rustling. Farah didn't speak much. She never tried to impress. She didn't ask him to be louder, happier, or funnier. She didn't frame his silences as problems to fix. She just sipped her tea, occasionally sketching something on a napkin, half doodles, quiet smiles in ink. John watched her, a warmth blooming in his chest that wasn't fireworks but rather a candlelight kind of feeling, safe, uncomplicated. Present it was in that moment, somewhere between her absent-minded humming and the soft light across her face. That John understood the real loss he had endured. He didn't lose Sophia, he had lost himself trying to keep her. He had dimmed his voice, filtered his pain, softened his truths, curated every response to fit into a frame she could post, and now, sitting across from someone who didn't post their love, but simply lived it, he realized how much of his soul he had spent narrating a story that was never his. There were no more drafts of apologies he never meant. No more reels of emotional labor packaged for public validation. No more screenshots waiting to be WEAPONIZED. Just him. His peace. And the quiet presence of someone who never asked him to apologize for being quiet. He smiled not out of triumph, but released the kind of smile that says, "You didn't break me. I just stopped breaking myself for you." Sophia's words didn't sting anymore. They sounded like something someone says when they believe love is ownership, not partnership. "You'll regret losing me." But he hadn't lost anything. He had shed a weight. He had unlearned performance, unfollowed codependence, logged out of narratives that needed pain to gain traction. He looked out the window. The street was calm. A breeze carried petals from the tree nearby. The world was quiet, and finally, so was he. Farah reached across the table and gently tapped her sketch toward him. It was a drawing of 2 cups, and hers with steam rising, forming the shape of a heart. No captions, just art. He looked at her and whispered, "Thank you." She shrugged. "For what?" "For not needing me to be more than I am." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence between them held more than words ever could, and in that moment, John knew he wasn't a victim, he wasn't a survivor. He wasn't the quiet boy who got walked over. He was a man who had learned to listen to others. Yes, but most importantly, to himself. Sophia would keep posting. Maybe she'd find someone who needed that world as much as she did, but John no longer belonged to it. He had chosen peace, and in doing so, he had chosen himself.